A week before my son's wedding, I overheard my family planning to use me as a babysitter for a crowd of about 15 children during the entire reception. So, I changed my plans. On the day of the wedding, my son called me frantic, "Where are you?" I just laughed and told them not to wait for me, or the buffet I had promised to prepare. My name is Charlotte Fitzgerald. I'm 72 years old, and I never thought that at my age I would have to teach my own family such a hard lesson. For months, I had been preparing for my son Marcus's perfect wedding. I had promised to take care of the entire buffet because I wanted to save them money. I calculated that it would cost me around $3,000 for all the ingredients, but I was going to do it with love. I had also offered to decorate the reception hall, make the centerpieces, and coordinate with the vendors. It was my gift to them, my way of showing how much I loved my son and how happy I was that he had found love again. Tiffany seemed like the perfect daughter-in-law when Marcus introduced her to me 2 years ago. She was always very polite. She called me Ms. Charlotte with respect. She brought me flowers when she came to my house and offered to help in the kitchen. "Ms. Charlotte," she would say with that charming smile, "let me help you with those dishes. Your cooking is delicious. Marcus is so lucky he grew up eating like this." Marcus was so happy, and after years of being a widower, seeing him in love again filled my heart with joy. I was in my kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon, making the final shopping list for the buffet, when I heard voices on the patio. My son, Marcus, was on the phone with someone from work, and Tiffany was talking to her sister Audrey, who had come to visit from out of town. At first I didn't pay attention. I was focused on calculating how many pounds of meat I would need to feed 150 guests, how many salads to prepare, and how many desserts. But then I heard my name, and something in Tiffany's tone made me stop. I quietly moved closer to the kitchen window that overlooked the patio, staying hidden behind the curtain. "Look, Audrey, I have everything perfectly organized for the kids at the wedding," Tiffany said, with that sweet voice she always used with me. "Marcus's mom is going to watch them during the whole party. There are about 15 kids from our guests, from babies to teenagers, but she's totally used to it. This way, we adults can enjoy ourselves without any annoying interruptions." Audrey laughed loudly and replied, "That's so smart, sis. The old lady is going to take care of all those screaming brats while you guys dance, drink, and have fun. Perfect. That way they don't bother us during the ceremony or ruin the reception photos." "Exactly," Tiffany continued, and her voice sounded different, colder. "I already told Marcus that his mom is great with kids and loves watching them. She won't even realize we're using her. She's always willing to help with whatever. It's like having a free professional nanny for the whole night. Plus, it'll keep her busy, so she doesn't interrupt any important conversations." "And she agreed?" Audrey asked. "We didn't even ask her directly," Tiffany laughed. "Marcus just mentioned to her that there would be some kids at the wedding, and she immediately offered to help if we needed anything. Of course, we said yes. She's perfect for the job. She has experience, and she's not going to charge us a thing." I felt like I had been slapped in the face. There I was in my kitchen, my hands covered in flour from making cookies for their wedding, spending my money, my time, and my energy to make their day perfect, while they were planning to use me as a free domestic worker without even asking. "The best part," Tiffany continued, "is that since she'll be busy with the kids all night, she won't be able to eat much of the buffet she's preparing. More food for the important guests." They both laughed as if they had made the funniest joke in the world. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought they would hear it. 72 years of life, raising children, watching grandchildren, always putting family first. And this was how they repaid me. As if I were a servant, available 24 hours a day. I stood there behind the curtain, feeling the anger rise from my feet to my head. But it wasn't just anger. It was a mix of pain, disappointment, and a humiliation so profound it hurt my chest. For 2 years, I had treated Tiffany like the daughter I never had. I had welcomed her into my home with open arms, included her in all our family traditions, and taught her the secret recipes that had been passed down through generations in my family. "You know what else I like about the plan?" Tiffany continued, completely unaware that I was listening to every word. Since the old lady will be running after the kids all night, she won't be able to get into our adult conversations. You know how mothers-in-law are, always wanting to give their opinion on everything and telling boring stories about when Marcus was little. Audrey burst into laughter. Oh my God, yes. My mother-in-law is the same way, always interrupting with her 50-year-old anecdotes that no one cares about. At least yours will be useful for once. Exactly. And the best part is that Marcus thinks his mom is offering out of love. He doesn't realize we planned it this way from the beginning. Men are so naive, Tiffany said with a malicious chuckle. I heard Marcus's footsteps approaching after he finished his phone call. What are my beautiful ladies laughing about? He asked with that loving voice he always used with Tiffany. I was telling Audrey how organized I am, Tiffany replied, immediately switching back to her sweet tone. I have everything sorted out so the guests' children won't be a nuisance at the wedding. Your mom is going to watch them. My mom is an angel, Marcus said proudly, always willing to help the family. It's incredible how she still has the energy to run after kids at her age. Yeah, it's very convenient to have a mother-in-law like that, Tiffany murmured, but Marcus didn't catch the sarcasm in her voice. I walked away from the window, feeling nauseous. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. This woman who had acted like the perfect daughter-in-law for 2 years, who had made me feel loved and respected, who had even called me Mom on special occasions, actually saw me as a free employee and a nuisance. I went up to my room, my legs trembling. I sat on the edge of my bed, the same one where I had slept next to my husband for 30 years before cancer took him. I looked at the family photos on my nightstand. Marcus graduating from college, his first communion, our vacations at the beach when he was a boy. I had dedicated my entire life to being the best mother I could be, and now that I thought I was getting a daughter, I discovered I was just a useful tool. Over the next few days, I acted as if nothing had happened. When Marcus called to ask about the wedding preparations, I answered normally. Yes, son, everything is perfect. The buffet is going to be delicious. When Tiffany came to visit and said, Ms. Charlotte, don't worry too much about the wedding. Try to relax and enjoy yourself. I smiled and nodded. Of course, sweetie. I'm so excited. But inside, a plan was taking shape. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play too. After all, I had lived for 72 years. I had raised a child on my own after being widowed. I had run a family business and survived things they couldn't even imagine. I wasn't going to let them treat me like a servant right under my nose. On Wednesday morning, 3 days after I had overheard that conversation, I called my best friend Loretta. We had known each other for over 40 years and had always been confidants. Lo, I need to tell you something, and then I need you to help me with a plan, I said without preamble. Oh, Charlotte, from the sound of your voice, I already know someone made you mad. Tell me everything, Loretta replied, intrigued. I told her the whole story from the beginning, the conversation I had heard, how it made me feel, and how Tiffany had been acting with me for 2 years. Loretta listened in silence, and when I finished, she sighed deeply. Charlotte, that girl is a snake. How dare she talk about you like that after everything you've done for them? You've spent a fortune on that wedding. You've dedicated months to organizing it, and this is how they repay you? I know, Lo, but here's the good part. I have a plan, and I need your help. Name it. You know you can count on me for anything. I explained my idea step by step. Loretta got so excited she started clapping on the other end of the phone. Charlotte, you're a genius. That spoiled girl is going to get the surprise of her life. Count on me. I've got your back on this. On Thursday, I began to execute the first part of my plan. I called all the caterers I had hired for the buffet. Good morning, this is Charlotte Fitzgerald. I need to cancel all the orders for Saturday's wedding. Yes, I know it's last minute, but a family emergency came up. Some tried to charge me a cancellation fee, but I managed to cancel everything by paying only small penalties. Then I called the florist where I had ordered the extra arrangements I was going to gift them. Excuse me, I need to cancel the centerpieces for Saturday. No, I don't need them for another date. I just won't be needing them anymore. On Friday night, the day before the wedding, I packed a small suitcase. I put in clothes for 2 days, my medications, my favorite book, and some personal items. Marcus had called earlier to confirm that everything was ready. "Mom, how are the preparations? Do you need me to come help you with anything?" "No, son. Everything is perfect. Tomorrow is going to be a wonderful day," I replied with complete calmness. "Mom, you're the best. Tiffany and I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for our wedding." "You don't have to thank me for anything, Marcus. Tomorrow, everything is going to go exactly as you planned." That night, I barely slept, but it wasn't from nerves. It was from the excitement of knowing I was finally going to get my dignity back. On Saturday morning, the wedding day, I woke up earlier than ever. It was 5 in the morning, and my eyes were wide open with an energy I hadn't felt in years. I took a shower, did my hair, and put on my favorite dress, the coral-colored one that I loved so much and that made me feel elegant. It wasn't the dress I had planned to wear to the wedding, but a special one I saved for important occasions, and this was definitely an important day. Loretta arrived at 7 on the dot, just as we had agreed. She had 2 suitcases and a conspiratorial smile that filled me with courage. "Ready for your day of freedom, Charlotte?" she asked, hugging me tight. "More than ready, Lo. I've been waiting for this moment for 2 years without even knowing it." We had booked a luxury spa 2 hours outside the city, a beautiful place with a lake view where we could completely relax. The plan included massages, facials, gourmet food, and a room with a jacuzzi. Everything I had saved for the wedding buffet, I was now going to spend on myself for the first time in decades. Before leaving, I wrote a letter that I left on the kitchen table, right where Marcus always sat when he came to visit. "Dear Marcus, by the time you read this letter, I'll be enjoying a well-deserved rest. For months, I prepared everything to make your wedding perfect. But yesterday, I found out that Tiffany and you had other plans for me. Apparently, my role in your special day was to be the free nanny for 15 children during the whole party, without anyone bothering to ask me if I wanted that job. Since the buffet I promised was also part of my unconsulted duties, I decided to cancel everything. I hope you find a quick solution. I'll be back Sunday night. With love, but with dignity. Mom." While Loretta loaded the suitcases into the car, I took one last look around my house. I looked at the kitchen where I had planned to cook all night for the buffet, the dining room where I had been organizing the centerpieces, the living room where I had tried different flower arrangements. All of that had been done with love, but that love had been misinterpreted as obligation. "Charlotte, are you sure about this?" Loretta asked me when I got in the car. "Because once we start, there's no turning back. Lo, I'm 72 years old. If I don't stand up for myself now, when will I?" "Start the car." The drive to the spa was liberating. As we watched the scenery pass by the window, Loretta and I talked about everything we had lived through together over the years. "Remember when our kids were little and we thought the biggest problems were that they didn't want to eat their vegetables?" Loretta laughed. "I miss those simple problems," I replied. "At least back then, when you did something out of love, it was received as love, not as servitude." We arrived at the spa at 10 in the morning. The place was even more beautiful than I had seen in the online photos. Perfectly manicured gardens, a spectacular view of the lake, and a peaceful atmosphere that immediately calmed me down. The receptionist greeted us with mimosas. "Welcome, ladies. Your rooms are ready, and your treatments will begin in 1 hour. Is this a special occasion?" "Yes," I replied with a genuine smile. "I'm celebrating my independence." As I settled into my beautiful room with a lake view, I started to imagine what was happening back in the city. The wedding was scheduled to start at 4 in the afternoon, but buffet preparations usually began very early. Marcus would probably be calling me from 9 a.m. to ask if I needed help loading the food. At 11:30, just as I was entering my first massage treatment, my phone started to ring. It was Marcus. I let it ring. 5 minutes later, it rang again and again. I turned the phone off. "Miss Charlotte, is everything okay?" the masseuse asked, seeing my smile. "Perfectly fine, dear. Please continue." For the next 3 hours, I dedicated myself completely to enjoying myself. The hot stone massage relaxed muscles I didn't even know were tense. The facial left my skin glowing. Loretta and I had lunch at the spa restaurant. Delicious food that I didn't have to cook myself, served by people who treated me with respect and kindness. "You know what I like most about all this?" I said to Loretta as we drank white wine on the terrace overlooking the lake. "What is it?" "That for the first time in 2 years, I'm doing exactly what I want to do when I want to do it, without having to ask anyone if it's okay or if they need me to do something else first." Loretta raised her glass. "I'll drink to that, and to the look on Tiffany's face right now." At 3 in the afternoon, I decided to turn my phone back on. I had 17 missed calls from Marcus, 8 text messages, and surprisingly, 3 calls from Tiffany. Marcus had never called me so many times in a row in his entire life, not even when his father was in the hospital. The text messages were getting more and more desperate. "Mom, where are you? We've been calling you all morning. Mom, I found your letter. Please call me urgently. Mom, the wedding starts in an hour. Please answer. Mom, where's the food? The guests are already arriving. Mom, please, can we talk about this after the wedding? We need to solve the buffet situation now. Mom, Tiffany is crying. Please help us." The last message had arrived 15 minutes ago. "Mom, I know you're mad, but there are 15 children here, and we don't know what to do with them. Their parents are asking who's going to watch them." I took a deep breath and dialed Marcus's number. He answered on the first ring. "Mom, where are you?" he yelled, with a desperation I had never heard from him before. "Hi, son. I'm at a beautiful spa with Loretta enjoying a chocolate massage. How's your wedding going?" "Mom, this can't be happening. The guests are already here, and there's no food. The caterers are asking where the buffet is. Tiffany won't stop crying." "Oh, son, didn't you read my letter? I explained everything in there. I canceled the buffet when I found out that my real job was to be a nanny, not a guest." "But Mom, the wedding has already started. We can't cancel now." "Marcus, you're a 45-year-old man with a good job and a fiancé who's apparently very good at organizing. I'm sure you'll find a solution. Is there a fast food restaurant nearby?" "Mom, you can't be serious." "Son, I've never been more serious in my life. Enjoy your wedding. We're going to enjoy our spa. Oh, and don't expect me early tomorrow. We're going to have breakfast here, too." "Wait, Mom, Tiffany wants to talk to you." I heard noises, crying in the background, and desperate voices. Then Tiffany's voice came on, no longer with her usual sweet tone. "Charlotte, you can't do this to us. You promised the buffet. There are 150 people here." "Tiffany, my dear," I replied in the calmest voice I could muster. "I promised the buffet when I thought I was a special guest at your wedding. But when I found out I was actually the free domestic worker, I changed my mind. As the saying goes, labor is paid, and I never charged for my services." "But the kids! There are 15 kids here, and their parents expect someone to watch them." "Yes, I imagine that must be very difficult. Don't you have a sister who can help you?" "What was her name?" "Audrey. I heard she thinks I'm very good with kids." The silence on the other end of the phone was delicious. It lasted for a few seconds that felt like an eternity. I could hear the chaos in the background, children crying, adults talking loudly, and what sounded like someone desperately moving tables and chairs. How do you know about Audrey?" Tiffany stammered, and for the first time in 2 years, her voice sounded broken, without that fake confidence she always showed. "Oh, sweetie, you learn a lot of things when you're 72 years old. One of those things is that walls have ears, especially when people talk so loudly on my patio." "Charlotte, please, can we talk about this later? Right now I need you to—" "No, Tiffany, you don't need anything from me. Based on what I heard, what you need is a professional nanny. I suggest you look in the yellow pages. I think they charge around $10 an hour per child. Let's see, 15 kids for 6 hours is $900. Cheap compared to the $3,000 I spent on your buffet." I heard Tiffany yelling at someone in the background. "Marcus, your mom has gone crazy. She says she knows everything we talked about." Then I heard Marcus's voice again, but now it sounded different. Deeper, like when he was a boy and knew he had done something wrong. "Mom, did you hear us when we were talking on the patio?" I heard a lot of interesting things, son. For example, that I'm an old lady who's useful for keeping busy so I don't interrupt important adult conversations. I also heard that I'm apparently so used to watching children that I wouldn't even realize you're using me. And my favorite, that I'm like having a free professional nanny for the whole night. The silence was even longer this time. Loretta, who had been listening to the whole conversation from her chair on the terrace, gave me a thumbs up. "Mom," Marcus began in a scolded child voice. "Marcus, you're 45 years old. You're a successful, intelligent man. Did it seriously never occur to you to ask me if I wanted to spend your whole wedding running after 15 kids instead of enjoying my only son's celebration?" We thought you liked to watch kids. I like to watch my grandchildren once in a while, Marcus. I don't like being the official wedding nanny without anyone consulting me, and I definitely don't like to hear that my daughter-in-law thinks I'm a nuisance that needs to be kept busy so I don't get in the way. Tiffany didn't say that. Marcus, I'm 72. I don't have Alzheimer's. I heard every word. I heard when your wife told her sister that she was smart for getting a free nanny. I heard when they laughed about how I wouldn't be able to eat much of the buffet because I would be busy. I heard when Audrey said that at least her mother-in-law would be useful for once. This time the silence was interrupted by a child's screams in the background and a woman's voice saying, "Where's the woman who was supposed to watch the kids? My son ran away and he's running all over the garden." "There's your answer, son. The show has begun." "Mom, please come. We'll pay you. We'll give you $500 to watch the kids." I laughed so hard that Loretta was startled. $500, Marcus? 5 minutes ago, it was a family favor I was supposed to do out of love. And now that you've realized I'm not as dumb as you thought, you want to pay me $500 to ruin my coral dress running after kids I don't even know? Tiffany yelled in the background. "Charlotte, there's not enough money in the world for me to go to that wedding now, but I'm going to give you some free advice. Next time you plan on using someone as an employee, ask them first. It's polite." $2,000, Marcus yelled, and now he sounded completely desperate. "Marcus, my son, listen to me carefully. If you had $2,000 to pay me to be a nanny, you also had money to hire a caterer instead of making me spend my retirement on your wedding buffet. But it turns out it was more convenient for Mom to pay for everything and also work for free, wasn't it?" Loretta poured me more wine and whispered, "You are brilliant, my friend." "Mom." Marcus's voice was now breaking. "Please don't do this to me. It's my wedding." "Marcus, I'm not doing anything to you. You did something to me. You and your fiancé decided I was your personal employee without consulting me. I'm just deciding that I don't accept that job." "But we can't get a caterer at this hour. The guests are going to be hungry." "You know what, son? That's called planning. When you organize a wedding, you're supposed to make sure you have food and a nanny. You assumed you had both for free, but you were wrong. Charlotte, you come back to the hall right now or we're never going to forgive you," Tiffany yelled. And now her true personality was fully showing. "There it is," I said to Loretta as I covered the phone. "There's the real Tiffany." I uncovered the phone and replied in the calmest voice in the world. "Tiffany, my dear, there's nothing to forgive. You planned to use me. I decided not to let myself be used. It's as simple as that. And frankly, after hearing your true tone of voice, I'm very glad I'm not there." "You're a selfish old lady. You ruined my wedding," Tiffany yelled. "No, sweetie. You ruined your wedding when you decided that saving money was more important than treating your mother-in-law with respect. I just decided not to be an accomplice to my own humiliation." Marcus took the phone again. "Mom, the kids are running all over the place. One got into the kitchen and knocked over the entire cake. Another one hid under the main table. The parents are furious." "Marcus, and where's that smart Audrey? Can't she help her sister with the kids?" "Audrey says she didn't know she had to watch kids, that it was your job. How convenient. The same Audrey who was laughing that the old lady was going to watch all the screaming brats now says she can't help. Marcus, please. Marcus, I'm going to hang up now because my chocolate massage is waiting. But before I do, let me tell you something. I hope this experience teaches you that your mom is not your personal employee. I'm a 72-year-old woman who deserves respect, not a servant you can use when it's convenient for you." "Wait, Mom? What? Are you really not coming?" "I'm really not coming. Enjoy your wedding. We're going to enjoy our spa, and tomorrow? Tomorrow we'll see. First, I want you to reflect on what happened here, and I want your wife to reflect on what it means to have a family." "But Mom..." "Marcus, I have to go. My masseuse is waiting for me, and unlike you guys, she's treating me with respect because I'm paying her for her services." I hung up the phone and put it on silent. Loretta was clapping. "Charlotte, that was masterful. How do you feel?" "I feel free, Lo. For the first time in 2 years, I feel completely free." After hanging up the phone, I sat on the spa terrace, looking at the lake and feeling a peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. Loretta watched me with a mix of admiration and concern. "Charlotte, are you sure you did the right thing?" she asked, taking a sip of her wine. "I mean, I know you were right, but Marcus is your only son." "Lo, precisely because he's my only son, I need to teach him this lesson. If I don't do it now, Tiffany is going to turn him into someone who treats his own mother like a domestic worker, and I'm not going to allow that." For the next 2 hours, my phone vibrated constantly, but I kept it on silent. Loretta and I enjoyed our spa treatments as if nothing were happening. The collagen facial left my skin as soft as a baby's, and the aromatic oil massage relaxed muscles that had been tense for years from the stress of trying to be the perfect grandmother. "You know what the funniest thing about all this is?" I said to Loretta while we were in the jacuzzi watching the sunset. "What?" "That for 2 years I tried so hard to be the ideal mother-in-law that I lost my own identity. I cooked what she liked. I decorated how she thought was pretty. I even changed the way I dressed to fit her image of the perfect grandmother." "I always thought that was strange," Loretta admitted. "You, who were always so independent, suddenly seemed to be asking for permission for everything." "You were right, and the worst part is that the more I tried to please her, the less she respected me. For her, my willingness to help was a weakness, not love." At 8 in the evening, I decided to check my phone. I had 43 missed calls, 26 text messages, and to my surprise, several messages from unknown numbers. Apparently, some relatives had gotten my number to try to convince me to go back. The messages were getting more and more desperate and revealing. "Marcus, Mom, we had to order pizza for all the guests. We spent $1,200 on pizza." "Marcus, the parents of 3 kids already left angry because no one could watch them." "Marcus, Tiffany is in the bathroom crying. She says you ruined the most important day of her life." "Marcus, Mom, the photographer is asking if he can take family photos. I told him Grandma couldn't make it. An unknown number. Ms. Charlotte, I'm Michael, Tiffany's dad. Please, Ms. Charlotte, come help us. My daughter is devastated." Another unknown number. "Charlotte, I'm Audrey. I know you heard our conversation. Please forgive us. It was just a joke." I laughed while reading Audrey's message. "A joke, Lo? Planning to use someone as a free employee is a very expensive joke." But the message that caught my attention the most was from a number I didn't recognize. "Ms. Charlotte, I'm Carol, the mother of one of the children at your son's wedding. I wanted to tell you that several parents and I are very upset because they told us someone was watching the kids, and it turns out there's no one. Some of us already left. What they did to you is not right. Look at this, Lo." I showed the message to Loretta. "Apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks what they did was wrong." "Of course not. Any decent person would realize that treating the groom's mother like that is unacceptable." At 9 in the evening, as we were having dinner in the spa's elegant restaurant, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I did recognize. My sister-in-law, Elena, my late husband's sister. "Charlotte, what's going on? Marcus called me crying, saying you didn't go to his wedding." Elena had always been direct and honest with me. I told her the whole story from the beginning, including the conversation I had overheard and how I had felt. "Charlotte, you did the right thing," she said without a moment's hesitation. "If my brother were alive, he would have gone to find Marcus himself to teach him a lesson. No one treats his mother like that, especially after everything you've done for that family." "Do you really think I did the right thing, Elena?" "Charlotte, I've known Marcus since he was born. He's a good kid, but that woman has him completely manipulated. It was time for someone to open his eyes. And if that someone had to be you, his own mother, then so be it." Elena told me that other relatives had already found out what had happened because Marcus had been calling everyone asking for help. "Most people are on your side, Charlotte. Your cousin, Rosa, says Tiffany always seemed fake to her. And your nephew Charles is furious with Marcus for treating you that way." After talking to Elena, I felt more confident in my decision. I wasn't being a cruel mother. I was being a mother who respects herself and teaches her son to do the same. At 10 in the evening, Loretta and I retired to our rooms. I had a beautiful suite with a private terrace overlooking the lake. I put on my most comfortable nightgown, poured myself a glass of wine from the bottle in the mini fridge, and sat on the terrace to look at the stars. My phone kept vibrating constantly, but it no longer bothered me. Every vibration was a confirmation that I had made the right decision. If Marcus and Tiffany were truly sorry for what they had done, they would have sent a message sincerely apologizing instead of continuing to try to manipulate me to solve their problem. Finally, at 11 at night, I decided to read all the messages that had arrived in the last 3 hours. Marcus: "Mom, the wedding is over. It was a total disaster." Marcus: "The kids broke 2 centerpieces and stained a guest's dress." Marcus: "Tiffany's sister had to watch some of the kids and she's furious with us." Marcus: "Tiffany says she won't forgive me for my mom ruining her wedding." Marcus: "Mom, why are you doing this to me? I thought you loved me." That last message hurt my heart, but it also confirmed that Marcus still didn't understand anything. It wasn't about love, it was about respect. I could love my son with all my heart and at the same time refuse to allow him to disrespect me. I decided to respond to only that last message. "Marcus, it's precisely because I love you that I won't allow you to treat me like an employee. A son who loves his mother doesn't plan to use her without consulting her. A son who loves his mother doesn't allow his wife to make fun of her. I love you, but I also love myself, and it was time for you to know that." The response came immediately. Marcus: "Mom, Tiffany is saying maybe it's better if we move to another city. She says she can't live in the same place as someone who ruined her wedding." I read that message 3 times before responding. Tiffany was playing her final card, emotionally blackmailing Marcus, threatening to take him away from me. Marcus: "If Tiffany wants to move because she can't face the consequences of her actions, that's a decision you two must make as adults. But know that a woman who truly loves you would never pull you away from your family as punishment for something you didn't do." There was no response after that. I stayed on the terrace until very late, listening to the sound of the water on the lake and feeling a deep tranquility. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't worried about whether I had pleased someone else. I wasn't thinking about what I could cook for Marcus tomorrow, what favor I could do for Tiffany, or how I could be a better mother-in-law. I was thinking about me, about Charlotte, about the 72-year-old woman who had raised a wonderful son, who had maintained a happy marriage for 30 years, who had survived widowhood with dignity, and who deserved to be treated with respect by her own family. That night, I slept better than I had in months. On Sunday morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. I felt rested and at peace. It had been a long time since I had woken up without that constant anxiety of thinking about what I would need to do to keep everyone happy. Loretta and I had agreed to meet for breakfast at 9, but I was already awake at 7, enjoying the silence and the view of the lake from my terrace. My phone had remained silent all night, which seemed more significant to me than all the desperate messages from the day before. Either Marcus had finally gotten the message, or he was so angry that he had decided not to talk to me anymore. Both options seemed better to me than continuing to receive messages trying to manipulate me. When Loretta and I met at the spa restaurant for breakfast, she looked at me with curiosity. "You look different, Charlotte. Lighter." "I feel different, Lo. It's as if I had been carrying a huge weight on my shoulders for 2 years and had finally taken it off. We ordered a full breakfast with fresh fruit, yogurt, pancakes, and coffee. While we ate, we talked about everything but the wedding. We talked about our plans for the coming months, about the books we wanted to read, about trips we had dreamed of taking but always postponed to be available for our family's needs. You know what, Lo? I think we're going to take that trip to Europe we've always planned. Seriously? You're not going to wait to see if Marcus and Tiffany need you to watch their future kids? Marcus is 45 years old. If he decides to have kids, he can hire a nanny like all normal people do. I'll be available as a grandma, not as a domestic worker. After breakfast, we decided to extend our stay a little longer. We booked the private jacuzzi for 2 more hours and spent the morning completely relaxing. It was the first time in years that I had spent so much time thinking only about my own well-being. At noon, as we were packing our things to go back, I decided to turn on my phone again. I had 3 new messages, all from Marcus, sent in the early morning. Marcus: Mom, Tiffany and I talked all night. She's very hurt, but she admits that maybe we didn't treat you well. Can we talk when you get back? The messages were different, less desperate, more reflective. But I also noticed something important. There was no real apology, just an admission that maybe they hadn't treated me well. Maybe wasn't enough for what had happened. I decided not to answer yet. I wanted to get home, settle into my own bed, and think carefully about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. The trip back was quiet. Loretta and I talked about what this weekend had meant to me. You know what's the most important thing I learned, Lo? That you can love your family and set boundaries at the same time. For all these years, I thought that loving meant saying yes to everything. But now I understand that sometimes loving means saying no. That's a lesson that many women of our generation need to learn, Loretta replied. We were raised to believe that our worth depended on how much we sacrificed for others. I arrived home at 5 in the afternoon. The house felt different, as if it had been empty for much longer than 2 days. I made myself some tea, put on my most comfortable clothes, and sat on my favorite armchair in the living room. It was time to decide what to do next. At 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I looked out the window and saw Marcus's car parked outside. He was standing at my door, alone, with his head down. I took a deep breath and went to open it. "Hi, Mom," he said in a soft voice. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Hi, Marcus. Come in." We sat in the living room, him on the sofa, and me in my armchair. The silence stretched for a few minutes, until Marcus finally spoke. "Mom, I have to apologize." "I'm listening." "Tiffany and I talked all night after the wedding. At first, she was furious with you, but when I told her exactly what you had overheard, she realized how bad everything she had said sounded." "And you realized too?" Marcus lowered his head even more. "Yes, Mom. I realized that for 2 years I've been treating you like you were my employee instead of my mother." "And how do you feel about that?" "I feel horrible. I feel ashamed. Dad must be rolling in his grave because of how I treated the woman he loved for 30 years. That mention of his father touched my heart, but I maintained my composure. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. It's not just about what happened with the wedding. It's about 2 years of assuming I was available for everything without ever asking me if I wanted to do it. I know, Mom, and you're right. When Tiffany suggested we ask you for help with something, I never stopped to think if it was fair to you. I just thought, Mom always says yes, so it's no problem. And Tiffany, how does she really feel?" Marcus sighed deeply. "She's ashamed. She says she's never had a mother-in-law before and didn't know how to treat you. But she recognizes that what she said about you to Audrey was very wrong." "Marcus, does she recognize that, or are you trying to soften what she really thinks?" "No, Mom, she recognizes it. In fact, she wants to come apologize to you personally, but I told her I had to talk to you first." I got up and walked to the window. The garden looked neglected. I had been so busy with the wedding preparations that I hadn't had time to take care of my flowers. "Marcus, I need to ask you a very direct question, and I want you to answer me honestly. Tell me, Mom, Does Tiffany respect me as a person, or does she see me as a useful resource who is available when she needs me? Marcus was silent for a long moment. Mom, I think until yesterday, the two things had gotten mixed up. But after seeing the consequences of treating you as a resource, she realized that she had lost sight of the person. And you, do you see me as your mother or as your personal employee? Mom, that question hurts, but I understand why you're asking it. And the honest answer is that for these 2 years, without realizing it, I started to see you more as someone who solved my problems than as my mother, who deserved to be consulted and respected. I sat down again and looked at him directly in the eyes. Marcus, I appreciate your honesty, but I need you to understand that things are going to change from now on. I understand, Mom. What do you need from us? I need that the next time you want to ask me for a favor, you ask me if I can and if I want to do it. Not assume that I'm going to say yes. I need you to treat me as a guest at your family events, not as part of the service staff. And I need Tiffany to understand that I am her husband's mother, not her employee. All of that is fair, Mom. Anything else? Yes. I need you to understand that I have the right to say no without giving explanations, and that when I say no, you are not going to try to manipulate me or make me feel guilty to change my mind. Understood? Yes, Mom. And Marcus, one more thing. The next time Tiffany speaks badly of me to someone, you are going to defend me. You are not going to stay silent while your wife disrespects me. Marcus nodded vigorously. You're right, Mom. I should have defended you from the beginning. We were silent for a few minutes. I could see that Marcus was processing everything we had talked about. Mom, do you forgive me? Marcus, you are my son, and I will always love you. But forgiveness is something that is built with actions, not just with words. I need to see real changes in how you treat me before I can say that all is forgiven. That's fair. And Tiffany, are you going to give her a chance to apologize? If she wants to apologize for real, not because you asked her to, but because she's truly sorry for how she treated me, then yes, I will listen to her. She wants to, Mom, but she's afraid you'll reject her. Marcus, I don't reject people who apologize sincerely, but I also don't accept fake apologies just to keep the peace. I understand. When would be a good time for her to come? Give her a few days to think carefully about what she wants to say. And Marcus, make sure she understands that I don't expect her to pretend we're best friends overnight. I just expect basic respect. Marcus stayed a little longer at my house, and for the first time in a long time, we had a real conversation between mother and son, not boss and employee. He talked to me about how he had felt during the wedding, seeing the guests wonder why there was no prepared food and why the children were running unsupervised everywhere. Mom, when the parents started asking me where the person who was going to watch the kids was, I realized that we had never asked you if you wanted to do that job. We just assumed it. And how did you feel when you realized that? I felt like an idiot, Mom, and I was ashamed that my own mother had to teach me such a basic lesson about respect. When Marcus left that night, I thought about our conversation. He seemed genuinely sorry, but I also knew that apologies are easy when you're faced with the consequences of your actions. The real test would be to see if the changes lasted beyond this crisis. The next 3 days were quiet. I didn't receive any calls asking for favors, no messages assuming I would be available for something. It was a strange but liberating feeling. For the first time in 2 years, my days were completely my own. On Wednesday afternoon, Marcus called me. Mom, Tiffany wants to come talk to you tomorrow afternoon if you agree. Is she sure she wants to do it, or does she feel obligated? She's sure, Mom. She's been very quiet these past few days, reflecting on everything that happened. Okay, tell her to come tomorrow at 4. Thanks, Mom. It means a lot to both of us that you're giving her this opportunity. Marcus, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for myself because I want to know if the situation has a solution or if I need to accept that my daughter-in-law and I are never going to get along. On Thursday at 4 on the dot, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see Tiffany. She looked completely different from how I had always seen her. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she was dressed in jeans and a simple blouse. But the most notable thing was her expression. She no longer had that perfect smile she always showed. She looked vulnerable, almost fragile. "Hi, Ms. Charlotte," she said in a soft voice. "Thank you for seeing me. Come in, Tiffany. Sit wherever you want." She sat on the edge of the sofa, as if she were ready to run out at any moment. I sat in my armchair and waited for her to speak. "I don't know where to start," she admitted after a few minutes of silence. "Start wherever you feel comfortable." "Ms. Charlotte, I want to apologize for everything I said about you. It was cruel, disrespectful, and completely unfair." "And why did you say it?" Tiffany lowered her head. "Why? Because I'm 26 years old, and I've never had a mother-in-law before. My mom died when I was 15, and my dad remarried a woman who never loved me. When I met Marcus and I met you, I didn't know how to handle having a mother figure again." "And your solution was to treat me like an employee?" "It wasn't conscious, Ms. Charlotte. At first you intimidated me a lot. You're so self-assured, so good at everything you do, so loved by the whole family. I felt like I would never measure up." "Tiffany, that doesn't explain why you talked about me that way with your sister." Tiffany was silent for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "Because when you feel insecure, sometimes you try to make yourself feel better by making others seem less important. I know it sounds horrible, but it's the truth." "At least you're being honest." "Miss Charlotte, when you didn't show up at the wedding and I read your letter, I realized something terrible. I realized that I had been trying to turn Marcus into someone who put my comforts before his own mother, and that's very wrong." "And how do you feel about that?" "Now I feel ashamed. I feel guilty, and I feel sad because I lost the opportunity to have a real relationship with the woman who raised the man I love." Tears began to roll down her cheeks, and for the first time since I had known her, they seemed genuine, not calculated. "Tiffany, I appreciate your honesty, but I need to ask you something directly. Do you really want a relationship with me, or do you just want to fix this so Marcus is happy?" At first, I admit that I just wanted to fix things so Marcus wouldn't be sad, but these past few days, I've been thinking a lot, and I realized that I also lost something important. I lost the opportunity to have a mom again. "Tiffany, I can't be your mother. Your mother died, and no one can replace her, but I can be your mother-in-law who respects you and expects respect in return." "That's all I want, Ms. Charlotte. Mutual respect and a chance to start over." "And are you really willing to change the way you treat me?" "Yes. I will no longer assume that you are available to help us. I will ask you before planning anything that involves you, and I will try to include you as family, not as service staff. And what happens if I say no to something you ask me? Then I will respect your decision without trying to make you feel guilty." We were silent for a few minutes. I could see that Tiffany was waiting for my answer, but I needed time to process everything she had said. "Tiffany, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't trust you yet. You're going to have to show me with actions that these changes are real, not just words to get out of trouble. I understand completely. What do you need me to do?" "I need time. I need to see how you treat me in the coming months when you're not in crisis. Are you going to give me that chance?" "Yes, Tiffany. I'm going to give you a chance, but it's going to be the only one. If you disrespect me or treat me like an employee again, there will be no second chance." "I understand. And, Ms. Charlotte, is there anything specific I can do to start rebuilding your trust?" I thought about her question for a few moments. "Yes, there is. I want you to tell your sister Audrey what really happened. Not a softened version, but the complete truth. I want her to understand that what you guys said about me was wrong." Tiffany nodded immediately. "I already did, Ms. Charlotte. I called her on Monday and told her everything. She wants to apologize to you, too." "I don't need Audrey to apologize to me. I don't know her well enough for her opinions to matter to me, but I do need her to understand that she can't talk about me that way when she comes to my house. She understands. In fact, she's very ashamed of what she said. Okay, anything else you want to tell me? Yes. I want to thank you for teaching us this lesson. I know it wasn't your responsibility to educate us about respect, but you did it in a way that we'll never forget. Tiffany, I didn't want to teach you any lesson. I just wanted to be treated with dignity, and I had every right to demand that. Ms. Charlotte, do you think one day we can have a normal mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship? That's going to depend on you, Tiffany. I'm willing to try if you really change. I will change, I promise. Don't promise me anything. Just show me. Tiffany got up to leave, but before she reached the door, she turned back to me. Ms. Charlotte, can I ask you something? Tell me, how can I be a good daughter-in-law? I honestly don't know how. Her question surprised me with its simplicity and honesty. Tiffany, being a good daughter-in-law is the same as being a good person. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Ask before you assume. Respect boundaries, and remember that behind every favor someone does for you is a person who chose to help you. Can I ask you when I have questions about something? If they're genuine questions and not disguised manipulation, yes. Thank you, Ms. Charlotte. Thank you for everything. When Tiffany left, I sat in my living room, feeling a mix of cautious hope and emotional exhaustion. The conversation had seemed sincere, but only time would tell if the changes would be lasting. The next 2 weeks were revealing. For the first time in 2 years, Marcus and Tiffany didn't call me asking for any favors. There were no messages assuming I would be available to cook, clean, or watch something. At first, I thought they were angry and punishing me with silence. But then I realized that they were simply respecting my space like they never had before. The first real test came on the Friday of the second week. Marcus called me around 7 in the evening, and by the tone of his voice, I could tell he was nervous. Mom, I need to ask you a favor. My heart sank a little. They were going back to their old patterns. Tell me, Marcus. Tiffany's birthday is on Saturday, and I wanted to throw her a surprise party. Could you help me organize it? Marcus, are you asking me to organize the whole party for you? No, Mom, not at all. I already hired the caterer, booked the venue, and sent the invitations. I just need help with the decorations because you have a great eye for those things. But obviously, I'll pay you for your time and your ideas. I was surprised. Marcus had done most of the work himself. He was just asking me for specific help with something he knew I was good at and was offering to pay me. Marcus, you don't need to pay me for helping with the decorations. That's something I can do as a gift for Tiffany, but I appreciate that you asked instead of assuming. You would really help me? Of course. It seems like a very sweet gesture on your part. Thanks, Mom. And if at any point you feel it's too much work, just tell me, and I'll hire someone else. Okay, son. That conversation confirmed that the changes were real. Marcus had learned to plan his own events, not to assume my availability, and to offer compensation for my time. But more importantly, he had learned to give me an out without making me feel guilty. The Saturday of Tiffany's birthday party was a complete revelation. Marcus and I spent the morning decorating his backyard with golden balloons and fresh flowers. He had bought all the materials and just needed my ideas on how to combine the colors and where to place everything. We worked together as a team, talking and laughing as we transformed the space. Mom, this looks beautiful, Marcus said as we hung the last of the lights. Tiffany is going to be so excited. I hope so. You can tell you love her very much. I do, but I also learned that loving my wife doesn't mean I have to stop respecting my mother. I'm glad you learned that, son. When Tiffany arrived that night, pretending she was just coming to an intimate dinner, her surprise was genuine and moving. Seeing the decorated backyard and all her friends waiting for her, she started to cry with joy. I can't believe you did all this, she exclaimed, hugging Marcus. Ms. Charlotte helped me with the decorations, Marcus said. She has an incredible talent for these things. Tiffany came over and gave me a sincere hug. Thank you, Ms. Charlotte. Everything looks gorgeous. It was my pleasure to help, Tiffany. Happy birthday. During the party, I observed how Marcus and Tiffany interacted with me. They included me in conversations. They introduced me to their friends as Marcus's mom, with pride, not as the woman who had helped with the decorations. They seated me at the main table as family, not at a separate table as service staff. The most significant thing of all was when one of Tiffany's friends commented on how beautiful the decorations were. "Tiffany, you have exquisite taste. Where did you learn to decorate like that?" "Actually, it was Miss Charlotte who designed everything," Tiffany replied immediately. "She has a natural talent for these things. I was just lucky that she helped me." Instead of taking credit for my work, Tiffany gave it to me completely. It was a small but significant change that showed me she had truly understood the lesson. 2 months after the disastrous wedding, I received a call I wasn't expecting. It was Carol, the mother who had sent me that text message during the wedding. "Miss Charlotte, I hope you remember me. I'm Carol, the mom of one of the kids from your son's wedding." "Of course I remember you, Carol. How are you?" "I'm good, thanks. I'm calling because I wanted to tell you something. Do you remember Michael, Tiffany's dad?" "Yes." "What about him?" "It turns out he and I met at the wedding when we were all trying to control our unsupervised kids. We started talking about what had happened with you, and we both agreed that what they did to you was very wrong. And well, we've been dating ever since, and he's told me more details about the situation. I wanted you to know that he also lectured Tiffany about how they treated you." I laughed softly. "Seriously? Tiffany's dad defended me?" "Yes, and pretty strongly. He told Tiffany that you had been incredibly generous preparing the buffet and that using you as a nanny without consulting you was unacceptable. He says he felt very ashamed when he found out the whole story." "I'm glad to know that, Carol." "Miss Charlotte, all of us parents who were at that wedding were very impressed with what you did. Not many people your age would have the courage to stand up for themselves like that. Sometimes you have to defend yourself no matter your age." "Exactly. And we wanted you to know that we respect you a lot for that." That call filled me with unexpected satisfaction. Not only had I defended my dignity with my own family, but my example had resonated with other people who had witnessed the situation. 3 months after the wedding, Tiffany invited me to lunch, just the two of us. We met at a quiet cafe near my house, and during the meal, we had the most honest conversation we had ever had. "Ms. Charlotte, can I tell you something personal?" "Of course, Tiffany." "Since the wedding, I've been going to therapy." "Really? Why?" "Because I realized that I have problems relating to mother figures. After my mom died, I developed defense mechanisms that included devaluing other older women to protect myself emotionally. That explains a lot of things." "Yes, my therapist helped me understand why I felt so threatened by you at first. You represented everything I had lost when my mom died. And instead of allowing myself to miss my mom, I decided to act as if mothers weren't important." "Tiffany, that must have been very painful for you." "It was, but I didn't realize it. I thought I had gotten over my mom's death, but I had really just buried the pain." "And how do you feel now?" "I feel more free, and I feel grateful to have a second chance with you." "Tiffany, I really appreciate you telling me this, and I'm glad to know you're working on yourself." "Ms. Charlotte, would you allow me to start over as if we were meeting for the first time?" "What do you mean?" "I want to really get to know you, your stories, your dreams, your opinions, not as the mother-in-law who can be useful, but as Charlotte, the person." "I would like that very much, Tiffany." "Can I ask you a question?" "Ask as many as you want." "What dream of yours did you leave unfulfilled when you got married and had Marcus?" The question surprised me with its depth and honesty. I always wanted to write a book. About what? About my grandmother's recipes and our family stories, but I always found excuses not to start. "And why don't you start now?" "Ms. Charlotte, you taught me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself and change a situation. Maybe it's not too late to fulfill a dream either." That conversation planted a seed in my mind. Over the next few weeks, I began to seriously think about writing that book I had always wanted to write. 6 months after the disastrous wedding, Marcus and Tiffany invited me to dinner to give me some special news. "Mom, we're pregnant," Marcus announced with a huge smile. How wonderful!" I exclaimed, hugging them both. "I'm going to be a grandma," Tiffany said, taking my hands. "We want to ask you something important. Tell me, we want you to be the grandma who chooses how much you want to be involved. We are not going to assume anything. We're not going to expect you to watch the baby when we want to go out. We want you to decide what kind of grandma you want to be. And if you want to be the grandma who comes over to drink tea and read stories once a week, that's perfectly fine," Marcus added. "If you want to be the grandma who watches the baby occasionally, that's also perfectly fine. You decide." I was moved to tears. Kids, that's all I ever wanted, the freedom to choose how to love my family. "And what do you choose, Ms. Charlotte?" Tiffany asked. "I choose to be a grandma who is available when you really need me, but who also has her own life, her own plans, and her own dreams." "Perfect," Marcus said. "That's exactly what we want." A year after the disastrous wedding, I published my book of family recipes. It was called Cooking with Love, Serving with Dignity, Recipes and Reflections of a Modern Grandma. Tiffany helped me promote it on social media, and Marcus organized a book launch party at his house. During the book presentation, I reflected on everything that had happened since that afternoon when I had overheard that conversation on my patio. "This book," I told the guests, "is not just about recipes. It's about the importance of maintaining our dignity while we serve the people we love. It's about the difference between giving out of love and being used for convenience." After the presentation, Tiffany came up to me. "Ms. Charlotte, I have something to confess." "What?" "The person who most inspired this book was you. Your courage to stand up for yourself taught me that you can love deeply and at the same time respect yourself." "Tiffany, that means a lot to me." "Ms. Charlotte, can I call you Mom Charlotte from now on?" "I would love that, sweetie." That night, as I signed copies of my book, I realized that the decision not to go to that wedding had been the best decision I had made in years. Not only had I regained my dignity, but I had also taught my family the true meaning of mutual respect. Now I'm 73 years old, with a grandchild on the way, a published book, and a family that treats me as the respected matriarch I always should have been. Sometimes, saying no is the most powerful way to say yes to yourself.